In the isolated, mist-shrouded town of Deathwater, unsettling legends filled the air like an ever-present fog. Stories of shadowy figures slipping through the dense forest, murmurs riding the wind, and sinister shapes moving without explanation were told in hushed voices. Deathwater's residents, deeply rooted in superstition, lived in constant unease, keeping their distance from the eerie woods that bordered their lives. Few dared to stray far from their creaking homes, but Reich was an exception. Unlike the fearful townsfolk, Reich dismissed their tales as baseless folklore. A man driven by logic and inquiry, he had no patience for the irrational. Seeking refuge from the distractions of urban life, he had moved to the edge of Deathwater to focus on his scientific pursuits. Where others saw mystery in the forest's endless gloom, Reich saw opportunity, though not for ghost hunting. His fascination lay beyond Earth, in the infinite possibilities of the universe. Reich's home, perched on a lonely hill overlooking the sprawling woodland, was an aging, weather-beaten structure. The exterior creaked with the groans of long neglect, but inside, it was a hub of technological activity. Devices of all shapes and sizes lined his walls: computers, monitors, satellite receivers, and bizarre gadgets born from his inventive mind. An astrophysicist by trade and an accomplished hacker by passion, Reich had transformed the old house into a cutting-edge lab. His most audacious project involved commandeering a private satellite network, bending it to his will for experiments that were both ambitious and highly secretive. For years, Reich had worked tirelessly on his obsession, contacting extraterrestrial life. The idea consumed him, his days and nights blending into endless hours of crafting intricate signals and sending them deep into the cosmos. While Deathwater's residents whispered about his peculiar habits, they had no inkling of his true endeavors. To them, he was merely the town oddball, a strange man tinkering with machines that no one cared to understand. One particular evening, the chill of an approaching storm settled over the town, and a pale moon cast feeble light across the darkened landscape. Inside his dimly lit study, Reich sat hunched over his equipment, his fingers darting across a keyboard with practiced precision. His hacked satellite, a silent accomplice in his quest, pulsed beams of data into the void above. Months of silence had followed his efforts, but tonight carried an unusual weight, an almost electric tension that prickled his senses. A sudden shift on one of his monitors made him pause. What began as static, the familiar hum of cosmic noise, began to change. Patterns emerged, precise, intricate, and undeniably deliberate. Heart-pounding, Reich leaned closer, his eyes scanning the screen as the chaotic signals morphed into something extraordinary, a language. It was unlike anything from Earth, a blend of mathematical logic and alien complexity. Then came the revelation that stole his breath. Amid the encoded message were coordinates pointing unmistakably to Earth. But there was more. Embedded within the signal was a message, cryptic and foreboding. Reich's chest tightened as he tried to make sense of it. This wasn't just a reply, it was a warning. The aliens weren't simply answering his call, they were coming. Panic set in as Reich frantically typed commands to terminate the connection, hoping to sever the link before it was too late. Yet, no matter what he tried, the signal remained. It was overpowering, unyielding. Suddenly, his equipment began to falter. Screens flickered erratically, and his house was plunged into chaos as the lights surged and dimmed. A low rumble crept through the floorboards, growing stronger with each passing second. Outside, the wind howled like a living thing, rising to an unnatural crescendo. Then, with a final surge, everything went dark. The house fell silent, save for the faint, unnatural hum that seemed to fill the air. Grabbing a flashlight from his desk, Reich stumbled toward the door, determined to check the generator, the lifeline for his isolated home. As he stepped outside, the cold air hit him like a wall, and he froze. The sky above was unrecognizable. The stars had vanished, swallowed by a churning mass of black clouds that shimmered faintly with an eerie, electric glow. The oppressive darkness seemed alive, pressing down on him with an almost tangible weight. A shiver ran down his spine as he realized the scale of what he had unleashed. His instincts screamed at him to flee. He raced to his car, heart hammering in his chest, and started the engine. The old vehicle roared to life, its headlights cutting through the suffocating blackness. He had to reach someone, anyone who could help. The narrow road twisted ahead of him as he sped through the forest, his hands gripping the wheel tightly. Then it happened. A sudden, blinding light erupted in front of him, bathing the trees in an otherworldly glow. Reich slammed on the brakes, but the tires lost traction. The car skidded wildly before careening off the road and tumbling into the ravine below. The crash was catastrophic. Metal crumpled, glass shattered, and the car rolled violently before coming to a jarring stop at the base of the hill. Inside, Reich's lifeless body slumped over the steering wheel, his chest still. In the passenger seat, his laptop sat unharmed, its screen casting a faint glow as the program continued to run, sending signals into the void. Days turned into nights, and an unnatural gloom descended over Deathwood. The sky, once vibrant and clear, now hung heavy with an endless veil of shadow. The sun, pale and distant, offered little comfort as it struggled to pierce the oppressive cloud cover that had settled over the town. Whispers of a curse swept through the frightened community, their old superstitions roaring back to life. And then the phenomena began. At night, shimmering lights danced across the sky, moving in deliberate, incomprehensible patterns. A deep, vibrating hum reverberated through the town, its intensity shaking buildings and rattling windows. Wildlife fled the area entirely, driven by instincts sharper than human understanding. Something was coming, something far beyond the comprehension of Deathwood's residents. The town was no longer merely strange. It was the epicenter of something far darker and far more dangerous. But it was the darkness that unsettled the town most of all. The strange void that had consumed the sky over Reich's house began to spread, creeping over Deathwood like an encroaching tide. This wasn't merely the absence of light, it was something far more sinister, something that seemed alive. It pressed down on the townsfolk with an oppressive weight, suffocating them with an unseen force they couldn't name. Fear took root in Deathwood, spreading like wildfire. The once quiet townspeople grew anxious, their unease hardening into paranoia. They bolted their doors and avoided the edges of the forest, convinced that something terrible now stirred within its depths. Rumors swirled of a curse, a darkness that could consume not just light but life itself. Eventually, the escalating chaos caught the attention of the outside world. Government agencies descended on the town, establishing a secure perimeter around Reich's now abandoned home. Scientists and soldiers flooded the area, their equipment and instruments seeking answers to a mystery that defied logic. Yet, no matter how hard they tried, the darkness resisted explanation. It seemed to have no source, no boundary, and no intention of retreating. Then, one fateful night, the impossible happened. The sky shifted, and from the blackness above, a colossal ship began to emerge. Slowly and silently, it descended toward Deathwood, its surface glowing faintly with an otherworldly light. The craft was beyond anything Earth's technology could produce, massive and alive, its shimmering structure pulsated with an eerie rhythm. It was as though the ship itself had been sculpted from the stars, a seamless blend of energy and matter that defied human understanding. The town froze in collective terror as the vessel hovered over the forest, casting a shadow so immense that Deathwood was plunged into total darkness. The ship was more than a machine. It radiated a presence, a sentience that seeped into the minds of those below. Inside, an alien species known as the Elastal observed the planet with an emotionless precision. These beings, composed of pure, radiant energy, had traveled across galaxies in response to Reich's unintentional summons. The Elastal were not explorers in the human sense. They were both observers and invaders, beings who sustained themselves on sunlight and whose motivations were far beyond mortal comprehension. The signal Reich had sent into the void had been an invitation, a beacon that called them to Earth. For now, they were content to watch, their colossal ship suspended silently above the town, assessing their new environment. The people of Deathwood, paralyzed with fear, could do little but wait. The constant shadow of the ship loomed over their every moment, its sheer presence driving them to the edge of madness. Strange lights flickered in the sky at night, and the deep hum that accompanied the ship reverberated through the town, shaking buildings and rattling nerves. The Elastal seemed indifferent to the panic they caused. It was merely a byproduct of their presence, a consequence that held no significance to their goals. Yet, amidst the growing dread, one soul dared to face the unknown. Roit Singh, a restless young man with an unquenchable curiosity, found himself drawn to the darkness rather than repelled by it. While others hid indoors, paralyzed by fear, Roit felt an inexplicable pull toward the strange and the alien. Fascinated by the stars and the mysteries they held, Roit had always dreamed of life beyond Earth. Now, standing beneath the ship's towering shadow, he felt his curiosity ignite into something more, a determination to uncover the truth. With the arrival of the Elastal, Roit's fascination transformed into an unshakable obsession. One restless night, while the town lay in a fitful, uneasy sleep beneath the oppressive darkness, he slipped quietly from his home. Determined to seek answers, he made his way toward Reich's old house, now shrouded in the heart of the mysterious shadow. The air was heavy, almost electric, as Roit moved through the forest. A strange energy seemed to pulse around him, making the hairs on his arms stand on end. The trees swayed gently, though there was no wind, responding, it seemed, to some unseen presence. Every step felt both exhilarating and unnerving, the world around him alive in a way he he had never experienced before. As Roy reached the edge of Reich's property, he froze. There it was, the alien ship, hovering low and vast against the sky, its colossal form obscuring the horizon. Its dark mass radiated a faint, ethereal glow that bathed the surrounding forest in an eerie light. But something else caught his attention. Moving through the darkness near the house was a figure, fluid and luminous, gliding silently across the ground. It was one of the Elastil. The being was smaller than Roy had imagined, its form pulsing gently with a soft golden light that seemed to shift and ripple like liquid energy. Its movements were otherworldly, almost hypnotic, as if it was in perfect harmony with the forces around it. Roy's heart raced, not with fear, but with awe. He felt a profound sense of wonder as he watched the creature explore the world it had come to. The Elastil stopped suddenly, as if sensing his presence. It turned, its glowing, translucent form facing him, and for a brief moment, the two were locked in a silent exchange. Roy felt something stir within him, a connection, primal and inexplicable, that bridged the gap between their vastly different worlds. This being, though alien, did not seem threatening. It felt curious, perhaps even unsure, as though it too sought understanding. Summoning his courage, Roy stepped forward, raising his hand slowly in a gesture of peace. The Elastil watched, then mirrored his motion, its shimmering hand hovering just above his. When their hands met, Roy was engulfed by a surge of warmth. A wave of pure energy passed through him, radiant and electrifying, flooding his senses with light and life. The sensation was beyond words, a mingling of power, knowledge, and emotion. In that moment, the Elastil communicated with Roy, not through speech, but through images and emotions that filled his mind. Roy learned its name, Zerk. The young being had chosen to descend to Earth, unlike its companions, who remained aboard the ship, observing from afar. Zerk was different. Driven by a deep curiosity, he wanted to experience the planet up close, to understand the humans who called it home, and to bask in the sunlight that nourished life here. By Elastil standards, Zerk was still young and filled with an adventurous spirit. In the days that followed, Roy and Zerk formed a surprising bond. They met in secret, deep within the forest where no one could find them. Zerk's abilities fascinated Roy. He could absorb sunlight and transform it into pure energy, a process he demonstrated with ease. Roy, in turn, shared with Zerk stories about Earth, its people, and the fragile beauty of its existence. Though their worlds were galaxies apart, the connection between them grew stronger, a friendship that defied the vast chasm of difference between their species. Zerk could command light itself, shaping and bending it to his will. He illuminated the forest in breathtaking displays, creating ephemeral pockets of daylight in the deepest shadows. Under his influence, the trees shimmered with a soft glow, their leaves bathed in a luminous brilliance that seemed almost magical. Roy stood spellbound, watching as the alien transformed the familiar woods into an otherworldly wonderland. But Zerk was more than his extraordinary abilities. He was captivated by humanity, the complexity of their emotions, the richness of their experiences, and the strange duality of their fragile yet resilient existence. In turn, Roy learned about the Elastil, their unparalleled mastery of technology, their reliance on sunlight as sustenance, and the enigmatic nature of their energy-based lives. Their conversations bridged the vast divide between their worlds, creating a profound understanding between them. One day, as the sun bathed the forest in golden light, Zerk stood in a clearing, absorbing the sunlight into his glowing form. His radiance grew stronger, his energy almost tangible. With a graceful motion, he extended a hand toward Roy and transferred a portion of that energy to him. The effect was instantaneous. A wave of warmth coursed through Roy, and he felt a strange connection to the sun itself, as if its energy now flowed within him. The world around him seemed sharper, more alive, and he realized that sunlight had become more than light. It was life, power, and strength. Over the following days, Roy discovered that Zerk had given him extraordinary abilities. He could channel the sun's energy in ways he had never imagined. Small wounds healed with a mere touch. Objects moved at his command, as if responding to his thoughts. He even learned to manipulate light, crafting dazzling illusions that shimmered like mirages. The powers filled him with wonder, but also with a profound sense of responsibility. This gift could not remain a secret forever. Meanwhile, Deathwood's plight worsened. The government, increasingly alarmed by the strange phenomena surrounding Reich's home, intensified its efforts to uncover the truth. Soldiers and scientists flooded the area, erecting barriers and setting up advanced equipment. Whispers of alien activity spread among the townsfolk, their fear spiraling into paranoia. Zerk's existence was now in grave jeopardy. Roy knew that if the authorities discovered the alien, they would treat him as a threat. Zerk would be captured, studied, and likely exploited for his powers. stars. Roit couldn't allow that to happen. As tension reached its breaking point, Roit and Zerk arranged to meet one last time. The night was heavy with an unnatural stillness, the forest cloaked in the oppressive shadow cast by the returning alien ship. Hovering silently above the treetops, its presence plunged Deathwood into an eerie, stifling darkness. Zerk stood in the clearing, his golden glow faint but steady, as though he, too, understood that this moment marked the end of their time together. Zerk sensed what was coming. His people were ready to leave, their observations complete. It was time for him to return to the ship, to leave Earth behind. The bond between him and Roit was undeniable, but their paths could no longer align. Both knew that the only way to keep Zerk safe, and perhaps the town as well, was for him to go. With a heavy heart, Roit watched as Zerk's form brightened one final time, his glow intensifying as he prepared to ascend. The forest seemed to hold its breath, the trees silent witnesses to their farewell. Roit raised his hand in a gesture of farewell, the golden light of his own newfound power flickering faintly in response. Zerk turned toward him, his energy rippling with gratitude and sorrow, before dissolving into the ship's beam of light. Moments later, the vessel ascended, its massive form disappearing into the vast, starless sky. As the ship vanished, the oppressive darkness lifted, leaving the forest bathed in the soft glow of the moon. For the first time in weeks, the stars reappeared, glittering faintly above. Deathwood's ordeal was over, but for Roit, the world felt irrevocably changed. He carried with him not only the gift Zerk had shared, but also the memory of a friendship that transcended the boundaries of space and species. Zerk's people had come for him, and he couldn't remain on Earth forever. But before he departed, Zerk offered Roit one final gift. Placing his glowing hand on Roit's chest, Zerk transferred a surge of energy so powerful it felt as though the very essence of the sun had ignited within him. Warmth and light flooded Roit's body, filling him with a vitality and strength unlike anything he had ever known. In that moment, Zerk entrusted him with a remarkable legacy, the power to harness the energy of the sun. As the colossal alien ship descended to retrieve Zerk, its pulsating lights casting ethereal patterns across the clearing, Roit knew their farewell was final. The vessel hovered silently above, its presence both awe-inspiring and bittersweet. Zerk turned to face Roit one last time, his golden form shimmering with a quiet brilliance. With a final flash of radiant light, he ascended into the ship, becoming one with its glow. Moments later, the craft descended into the heavens, vanishing into the endless expanse of the night sky. In the months that followed, the oppressive darkness that had once cloaked Deathwood gradually faded. The townsfolk, shaken but resilient, began to rebuild their lives, though the strange events that had unfolded remained etched in their memories. The government eventually withdrew its forces, their investigation unable to produce any definitive explanations. All that remained were whispered rumors and a lingering unease that would not easily be erased. But Roit knew the truth. The encounter had changed him in ways he could scarcely describe. The power Zerk had given him remained, coursing through his veins, connecting him to something far greater than himself. Standing beneath the sunlight, he could feel its warmth and energy as though it were alive within him, a constant reminder of the bond he had shared with a being from the stars. This gift was more than a power, it was a responsibility. Roit had become the guardian of a secret no one else could comprehend. His connection to the Elastal and their boundless universe was a bridge between worlds, a symbol of possibilities beyond human understanding. As he walked through the forest, the sunlight breaking through the canopy in golden beams, Roit felt a deep sense of purpose. The life he had known was gone, replaced by something extraordinary. The darkness that had once loomed over Deathwood was gone, but the light endured, within him and all around him. In the quiet heart of Deathwood, Roit stood as a testament to that light, a living beacon of hope and discovery. He carried with him the memory of friendship that transcended worlds and the knowledge that the universe held mysteries far beyond what humanity could dream. And as he looked toward the stars, Roit knew that the story of light, life, and infinite possibility was only just beginning.